on a cold, rainy evening. Old Mr. Warner and his son Ronald sat playing chess in their cozy living room while Mrs. Warner watched them fondly. She felt grateful for their close family bond. They weren't wealthy, but love filled their home. Ronald was their only child, born when his mother was nearly 40, and they cherished him deeply. The peaceful silence was broken only by the drumming rain on the windows. Mr. Warner looked up and mentioned that his old friend Miles Morris was expected to visit that evening. Just then, they heard a knock at the door. Mr. Warner opened it to reveal a large, red-faced man dripping with rain. Miles Morris had been his friend from years ago, before Miles went to India as a soldier. The family welcomed him warmly, and soon Miles was seated by the fire with whiskey in hand, sharing fascinating tales from his 22 years abroad. Ronald listened eagerly, saying he wished he could visit India himself. His mother's face tightened with worry at the thought. Miles warned that staying home was wiser, though his stories made distant lands seem magical. Then Mr. Warner asked about something Miles had mentioned earlier, a monkey's paw. Miles hesitated, then slowly pulled a shriveled paw from his pocket. Mrs. Warner stepped back nervously, but Ronald examined it with curiosity. Miles explained that an old Indian holy man had given it to a fellow soldier friend of his. The paw was enchanted, able to grant 3 wishes to 3 different people. But the old Indian had meant it as a warning that interfering with fate only brings misery. Miles's friend had used his 3 wishes, and his final wish was for death itself. When the friend died, the paw came to Miles. He admitted he had been young and foolish enough to use his wishes. He'd wished for wealth and a fine car, but his wife and daughter died in a terrible accident involving that very car. His 3rd wish was to lose the money, but by then it was too late. His family was gone. The room fell silent. Finally, Mr. Warner asked why Miles kept such a cursed object. Miles said he couldn't give it to a friend, knowing what it would bring, but Mr. Warner could take it if he insisted. Against Miles's warnings, Mr. Warner took the paw and asked how to use it. "Hold it in your right hand and make your wish," Miles said quietly. Mrs. Warner joked that she could use 4 hands instead of 2 to manage all her housework. The family laughed, but when Mr. Warner raised the paw to wish, Miles jumped up with a white face and shouted for him to stop. The moment passed, and they sat down to dinner, gradually forgetting the strange object. After Miles left late that night, the family discussed his incredible stories. Ronald teased that some weren't true, especially the tale about the paw. But Mr. Warner seemed troubled. Mrs. Warner asked if he'd paid Miles for the paw, worried they'd wasted money. He admitted he had given a small amount. Ronald laughed and urged his father to wish for £40,000 to pay off their house. After some hesitation, Mr. Warner held the paw and spoke the wish. Suddenly, he cried out and dropped it. He swore the paw had moved in his hand, twisting like something alive. They stared at the paw on the floor, but nothing happened. Eventually, they dismissed it as imagination and went to bed. though Mr. Warner sat alone in the dark room for a long time, troubled by strange shadows. The next morning, sunlight made everything seem normal again. Ronald left for work at the factory, laughing about the money that would never come. His mother watched him walk down the road, feeling an inexplicable chill despite the warm sun. That afternoon, a well-dressed stranger appeared at their door. He was from the factory where Ronald worked. Mrs. Warner's heart raced. The man's sorrowful expression told her everything before he spoke. There had been an accident with the machinery. Ronald had been caught in it. He was dead. Mrs. Warner's world shattered. The stranger explained that the company wanted to help them in their grief. As compensation, they were offering a sum of money. He placed it in Mr. Warner's trembling hand. £40,000. Days later, after burying their son in the cemetery 3 miles away, the old couple returned to their empty house. They barely spoke. The rooms felt hollow without Ronald's laughter. A week passed in terrible silence. One night, Mrs. Warner sat by the window, unable to sleep, thinking of her son lying cold in the ground. Suddenly, she remembered the monkey's paw. They still had 2 wishes left. She shook her husband awake, her eyes wild with desperate hope. They could wish Ronald back. Mr. Warner's blood ran cold. He tried to reason with her. Their son had been mangled in the machinery for a long time before they could pull him out. The factory hadn't wanted them to see the body. Did she understand what that meant? But grief had driven her beyond reason. She demanded he find the paw and make the wish. Reluctantly, with a heart full of dread, the old man went downstairs into the darkness to search for it. As his trembling hands fumbled through the shadows, he heard his wife weeping upstairs, calling for her dead son to come home. Outside, the wind howled, and somewhere in the distance, footsteps seemed to approach their door through the cold night, growing closer with each passing moment.